Welcome to the Convo Lounge. I'm your host, Antonio Crow, with Shar Rochelle and Amir Anthony. And today's topic of discussion is colorism.
That's right. That's right.
Whew.
Right.
So just to lighten up the mood, as we were talking about it opening up, I was thinking of the movie from the 80s, Colors.
Ooh, yeah.
Color.
I ain't nightmare walking, psychopath talking. Yeah.
Oh man, but colorism. Woohoo!
Right. So I think the reason why this is a very interesting topic and a little bit controversial too is that it is still something that is unfortunately a topic of discussion within the Black community, and not just our community, but also in other communities of people who are of color. So as we navigate with this episode, we want our listeners to also take heed in some of the things that are still currently relevant in today's society, defining what colorism is and how it plays an impact in the TV and media, and also in the workplace, which is something that we can all discuss on. So, Shar, for you, what does colorism mean to you?
Simply put, light skin versus dark skin, hair texture, curly hair, wavy hair, good hair versus nappy hair. Those are some of the things that I identify with colorism.
Right. What about you, Antonio?
Man, so, I really never paid attention to colorism. But then as we talk about it and I read like a definition, it seems that colorism is a prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. And then thinking back, I see how the women express their colorism. And then I also see how the men express their colorism. Like when you say light-skinned dudes act like this, or sweeter the berry, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
Right.
So the colorism, that is a plague, if you will.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that has been plaguing the Black community for years, for hundreds of years, from the time that we were brought to this country and enslaved. It is something that is generational, and it is something that is discussed amongst family. It's discussed in the workplace, and it's even shown in television and in media. I think for me, colorism does express a form of definition of our own Blackness and other cultures who are of color. And unfortunately, it has been something that has been brought upon white Europeans to divide the way we are as Black people and as Africans, not just here in America, but across the globe. You see many Blacks that are professionals in athletic settings, for instance, with baseball. A lot of brothers that play on those teams come from South America, and there are more Africans in those countries, and they too have to deal with the harsh realities of colorism. And you see it played out on their television and played out. So I think that it is something that is unfortunate that plays a significant role within the Black community, but also in the larger scale, the African community and also other ethnicities of color. So it's important that we bring light to it today. You wanted to say something, Antonio?
Yeah, what you were speaking to with baseball, like Sammy Sosa, he changed skin pigmentation.
Skin pigmentation or bleaching of the skin?
Okay,
Yeah,
well, however you want to call it.
That's bleaching. The brother looks our complexion when he was playing for the Chicago Cubs. And it's funny you brought him up because I just watched a documentary on ESPN talking about the home runs and the home run competition that him and Mark McGwire had. And as I'm watching the documentary and they talk and go back and forth to each player, Sammy Sosa appears and I'm like, damn, like, what happened to you, brother? Like, that is self-hatred, and that is the lack of knowledge of self. I highly doubt that is a health condition, and if it is, please excuse me. But that is one of those situations where, my goodness, like, why? What got you to that point? But I think that once again, I think colorism can tap into so many things and how it affects even young people that are from our community and how that can have an impact as well.
Yeah, but just to be very clear on how it started within the Black community in America, it started during slavery when slave owners pinned Black people against each other based on the color of their skin tone. So your lighter skinned African Americans were the house slaves. They did more of the domestic work, whereas the darker complected African Americans were field slaves. Right. So that was the beginning of colorism. And just for our non-Black listeners and viewers, simply put, colorism is the prejudice in the Black community with light-skinned versus dark-skinned.
No doubt. And yeah, no doubt. It does stem from the unfortunate time of enslavement in this country and how they divided us. And I think it's extremely important that when we talk about it, and, you know, Malcolm X, the great orator, always will talk about the difference between the field Negro and the house Negro. And I think it's extremely important that that still is relevant today when we talk about our community and how certain individuals in our community are treated differently versus others that are of a different skin hue. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's definitely something that is played out. You can talk about it like we will later on and how it plays a key role, and even in media and even in commercials, how it's definitely an issue. But you know, and I think also not just skin tone, but also hair.
Yeah.
You know, we go back to Spike Lee and the movie School Days, and there's the part in the movie where the two different sororities go at it, and they have the sing along with good hair, bad hair, and have one sorority who's comprised of women who are of a lighter complexion, whereas the others are of a different complexion, darker complexion. And that movie is still relevant to this day. And I'm glad that it's on Netflix right now. For all of our listeners who have never seen School Days, definitely check that out, because it has an impact on our society. And at the end of that movie, it does say, you know, wake up. And I hope that we are waking up in the fact that it is definitely still an issue within our community is colorism, and then hair, and how you see videos. I know, Shar, you sent the video to us where a young little girl was getting her hair done by her mama, and she was just crying about that sense of not just colorism, but her hair, and that she didn't feel that she was pretty enough. And I think we need to embrace our Blackness like we did, you know, in the 70s. You know, you don't see those commercials where they're not our skin complexion. I'm talking about us, you know, here on the Convo Lounge. They rather advertise someone who is of a lighter complexion and then show off some of the attributes that a Black woman would have. So defining Blackness in America, unfortunately, is done through the lens of white people. And I think it's extremely unfortunate. We need to really focus on that.
Yeah, but I mean, colorism is also pointed out and made relevant in our dating preferences. You hear people say all the time, like, I prefer light-skinned women, or I prefer dark-skinned men, or I prefer light-skinned men with curly hair. Right. So I don't think it's just what society pins on us. Like, we make those choices every day when we're finding, you know, the person of the opposite sex or same sex as well attractive.
You know, that's funny you just mentioned that, because I remember when my cousin got married, one of he had two best men, but one of his best men got on the microphone. I don't know if the alcohol was flowing, but he literally got on the mic and was like, yeah, we're happy. I'm not going to say my cousin's name, but we were happy that he finally got him a light-skinned wife, because, you know, he likes him light-skinned. And I remember rolling like, bruh, did you just say that? And, you know, his wife is, you know, biracial. You know, she's, you know, mixed with Black and white. But I was just rolling because we all know that that's how he likes them. But the fact that he pointed it out was just like, damn, like, are you serious right now? But like, yes, in the Black community as Black men, you know, Tori and I, you know, I can say for me, my mother and my sister are lighter than me, okay? But, and I have a lot of family members who share that same skin complexion, especially on my mother's side. But we are all beautiful. And I think we need to focus on that when it comes to colorism. Black is beautiful. Black is beautiful.
Yeah.
If you're of other ethnicities where the skin pigmentation is a darker complexion, your ethnicity is beautiful. And I think that's the thing that we don't focus on, is how Black is beautiful. Because, you know, there are a lot of brothers and sisters out there that share solidarity and understand the influence on how the Black community has for them. And they don't have to look a certain skin complexion. You know, you have many of activists out there. I mean, Angela Davis, and I, you know, adore Angela Davis. And I almost had the opportunity before the pandemic. She was actually going to come to Pomona College to speak. And I remember telling my father about Angela Davis coming to the campus, and we got her tickets. And I hope that they revisit bringing her back, because she actually taught at Pomona College. But the fact that that sister is still dynamic, and she was at one of the rallies in Oakland a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we already know Angela Davis' skin complexion. She's a lighter skinned Black woman, but she is all about Black empowerment, social activism, changing the systematic racism that's been going on in this country. And she dates back to the Black Panthers. So I think we have to be mindful that it's all about Black is beautiful. It's focusing on the person inside and what they stand for, the principles that they stand on. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And also owning the fact that I overheard a conversation recently, and I was probably watching TV. I don't know. I can't cite the source. Right. But as a darker skinned Black woman, sometimes darker skinned people feel like they own the race because we're dark skinned, right? And we discount lighter skinned Black people. And it's like, what makes me any Blacker than them? My life experience surely doesn't make me any Blacker than them, because I wasn't raised in an Afrocentric household. Truth be told, I was the only Black kid in most of my classes growing up. So I didn't start relating to the Black culture until I was well into my adulthood. Wow. You know what I mean? So just because I'm darker skinned doesn't automatically mean that I'm Blacker or I own the rights to Black culture more than anybody else at all. We are all Black. We are all Black collectively. No, granted, there are some passes that my lighter skinned sisters get that I don't get. Right. And I'm not going to brush over that at all. Like, I have definitely been treated differently as a darker skinned Black woman growing up. But at the end of the day, Black is Black. I just want to go on the record and say Black is Black. Be it you're biracial, a quarter Black, full Black, light skin, brown skin, caramel tone, dark skin, you're Black.
Yeah, so what you were talking about, Shar, was have you guys heard of the paper bag test?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so in the 19th and 20th century, the paper bag test was often utilized in Black spaces and in hiring of Black people. That's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is. And a lot of Black people during the migration from the South to the North, a lot of them use that paper bag test to pass as white so that they can get jobs. Right. And a lot of them did, you know, due to rape, you know, from the slave owners to some of our slave sisters. So, yeah.
No, that's, you know, I think I want to harp back to what you just mentioned, Shar, because I think that was important, because you and I both grew up in neighborhood cities where there wasn't an abundance of Black children in the classroom. And I think, you know, for me, I do consider myself growing up in a household where we were focused on Pan-Africanism and Afrocentric. You know, we knew about Kwanzaa at an early age. We knew about a lot of contributions from Black Americans in this country. But I think when it comes to your case and other Africans in this country, is that we focus on knowledge of self, you know, being able to seek those things that are important to us in our culture. And we're still learning. And I encourage all of our listeners, and I even do it myself, to continue to find things that are relevant and important to what is going on within our community, and also in the communities that you share within your own race. I think that Black pride is very important to have that. And we're not saying that we're better than you or this and that. We're just saying that it's important to show that pride of something that is taken advantage of in America, unfortunately. And it's, you know, we focus on the importance of Blackness, and that is not defined based on your skin tone. It's defined by the character of that person, and the fact that you are prideful in what our ancestors and what we have been able to overcome, and still be able to fight through all the things, because we are resilient as Africans. Yes. So it's important to share that and not allow my skin pigmentation versus my brother's skin pigmentation or other sister's skin pigmentation define them. So as we continue to navigate with this, y'all, I think another thing that we can all focus on, and I think it's very important, we kind of tapped on it with Spike Lee, is colorism within media and on television.
Oh, let's talk about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Dark skin and Viv versus light skin and Viv.
Yo,
That was the plot twist heard around Black America.
wow. You know what's amazing? When I think about that particular episode, I think about the fact that if that would have happened today, what impact you think that would have with social media, y'all?
Canceled. It would have been cancel society, cancel culture all day, every day. Even if they switch the roles, this generation Z, as well as the millennials, would have been like, even if you change Aunt Viv, give us another dark skinned Aunt Viv. They would not go for the complete flip the way that we did back in the 90s.
So what's amazing, so for all of our listeners out there who aren't of age and don't recall like the switch, color switch, you can go and check out the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on HBO Max. I know it's on there now, and I think on other platforms like on BET and MTV, I think they show episodes. But you think about that particular switch, because I felt like the original Aunt Viv, she had an impact on the show, and she was a strong character on that show. Who, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, was she was a professor, right? Not a lawyer, because I believe Uncle Phil was a lawyer or a judge.
Right.
Yeah, I think Aunt Viv, the original Aunt Viv, was a professor, and I remember her impact, teaching. And I remember there was an episode when she taught Will and Carlton about during the period of slavery in this country. The episode where she showed up those white women in the ballet class. I remember that episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember how sassy she was and how strong she was as a Black woman. Whereas when they brought in the other Aunt Viv, I remember like they poked fun at it, but it was like they watered down that character. She was never a strong presence on that show anymore.
Yeah.
And
it was a complete energy shift.
It was. And it really like you mentioned, it would have, if that would have happened today, it would have been all bad.
Yeah.
So even with the Black as Fuck show, people still have something to say about the spouse, which is the daughter of
Quincy Jones.
Yeah, the daughter of Quincy Jones, and she even said people forget that her father is Quincy Jones.
Well, because Rashida Jones definitely passes as white. She definitely passed. Like, she could play a white role easily, right, and nobody will say anything. She is the definition of being racially ambiguous, and that's no shot to her. Right. It just is what it is.
You know what's amazing, and shout out to her sister Kadada, because she did date the great late Tupac. I think that what's amazing about Rashida is, I agree, I've seen her in movies where she doesn't play a Black woman role. And there was a movie she was in with Paul Rudd. I can't think of the name of the movie, where she was playing his girlfriend or his wife, and all her friends were white in the movie. I think the name of the movie was I Love You, Man, or something like that. And I was like, wow, she can definitely pull off like either way. And I think with Black AF, that was the first time we actually seen her play a role where she's with a Black man on screen. And I think that was the main issue. If you would have had the likes of a Nicole Ari Parker or other Black women who are lighter complexion, I don't think it would have been Tracy Ellis Ross, right? Yeah. Which is on another show that Kenya Barris created. I don't think it would be that much of an issue, but because it was Rashida Jones, Quincy Jones's daughter, who married a white woman, a white European woman, at the time where it was frowned upon to do so, I think that she can navigate in spaces and not have to be Black. She can be Rashida Jones, which is one of that thing, really the main emphasis on why people were upset with the handpick of casting her was that fact. Because let's just point it out, Black AF is loosely based on Kenya Barris's family, and his actual wife is biracial in real life. So I think that we have to look at that. And I think casting plays a key role when it comes to, like, if you go back to the Cosby Show, you know, you had 4 girls and you had, you know, a son. The 2 oldest daughters, Sandra and Denise, were super light, right? They were like, they could pass either way. And I mean, and her daughter in real life, you know, is like an identical twin of hers, you know? And I just think that when you look at the Cosby Show and how it was showing the blackness, you know, on all angles, but I think once again he had strong characters around that to make up for the colorism on that show, because you had, in my opinion, one of the greatest television moms of all time, Claire Huxtable.
Right. I mean, they even had Raven Simone. She was the grandchild, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that is true. I personally feel like there is not enough representation of darker skinned Black women on TV. Now we have it, thanks to Issa Rae, thanks to Spike Lee, thanks to Lena Waithe. Like, now we're seeing more of a presence of darker skinned Black women on TV, but a lot of those shows are cable television. We don't see darker skinned Black women married to Black men on primetime TV.
Right.
We don't. And I think that's what I would like to see more of. Like, I feel like there hasn't really been and forgive me when I say this, and don't take it intentional, but there hasn't been a truly Black casted show since Moesha, in my opinion.
True. And I think, to your point with primetime television versus premium television, is that is more of a commodity now. Whereas primetime television shows, this aren't a commodity. They have been bombarded with reality television and also like contestant shows or competition shows. So you don't have those that Thursday night lineup where you would get Martin living single and New York Undercover anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to navigate on BET that has an abundance of shows written by the likes of Lena Waithe and others that showcase Black women of all color hues. And you have leading ladies like Issa Rae that has 2 strong Black women characters with her and Molly that have an impact on that show. So I think it's actually pretty dope that we have it on premium networks, because they're a hot commodity right now where you can tune in, whereas people just don't have time to watch primetime television no more. So those shows come on over the weekend on Sunday nights primarily, where you can tune in and actually get a chance to see Blackness in its all forms. And I think that's really cool that you can do that. But I do think we need to have more depictions of Black family on television. I mean, the only show that can actually be shot out is the fact that you have Blackish and the spinoffs that go along with it. But it will be nice to see other networks that are in the copycat industry impact and have that, and not have it be interracial, you know, and maybe it could be more focused on CBS and on Fox, where they can have shows like that. You know what I'm saying?
I want to
see the Carmichael show come back. Shout out to Gerard Carmichael. I love that show.
No doubt. No, he's good.
Yeah, I want to shout out Donald Glover for his Atlanta show.
Right.
Yeah, Atlanta, that is an amazing show.
Yes.
It is definitely. When it first came out, it threw me off because what I expected was not what I expected. And one of my favorite episodes still, I can watch it any day, is the one where they were poking fun at Black television.
Right.
And they were poking fun at the commercials and how we're depicted on Black television. And I think his show had a lot of his controversies because it was speaking on things that are super relevant in our community. And the fact that he doesn't get enough credit for the fact, and I think people don't realize that he's the same dude, right? Because you got you got Childish Gambino, but the dude is like extremely talented. Like, he can do anything he wants to. And I think, like I said, even in our magazines, you know, you have Essence, for instance, and they've done cover shoots where they've had Black women and Black men of all, you know, skin tones embrace. And I think we need to see more of that Black empowerment, that more of that showing emphasis that we are all Black. You probably won't see Quincy Jones' daughter on that cover of Essence anytime soon. you might see her on a different magazine, but
Maybe on Ebony, she might get an Ebony
I
pass.
highly doubt that. But but I think it's important that we continue to have those spaces on television primarily where we can actually showcase our blackness. And I know that Shar and Antonio, we all had a conversation about Black AF when it first came out. And I know, Shar, you had your take on what you thought about the show.
Yeah, so I understand that the show is based on his life. However, it is not Black AF at all. I think that he should have named it Rich AF because it's not relatable to anybody in the Black community outside of rich Black folks. And I feel like having a show and all of his shows being loosely created around his own personal life is narcissistic AF. Like, there is a plethora of what we can discuss in the Black community and Black culture. Highlight that. Like, we don't, if you want to have your own show, have a reality show with your own family. But we got to see 3 different spins of your life, dude.
All right, well, Shar, just let me say this. That man has 6 children, and he lives with his 6 children. A Black man, that's rare in the Black community.
I never said anything about him as a father.
But
I'm talking about him as a creator.
I know you're not, but anything.
He's probably a phenomenal father. Happy belated Father's Day, Kenya.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as a Black man raising a family or being in the family home, that's rare. So for me, that is like up there as far as a man taking care of his responsibilities and being a leader for his family and owning up to who he is as a person.
But what does that have to do with 3 different spinoffs of a show about your life? Now, granted, I appreciate the fact that in all of his shows, there is a strong father figure. That is amazing, right? There's an active parent. Even if, I could even see if you spun it, Antonio, too, like, hey, he's doing these shows to be able to provide for his 6 kids. It's narcissistic, though.
Yeah,
the man is a narcissist.
There's nothing wrong with being a narcissist.
Well, okay, so here's my thing. I think I want to highlight a few things. One, I think it is important that his shows do depict a Black father. I think it's cool that you are able to see through the lens what it was like raising his children. I think when it comes to Black AF, I think what he's poking in is kind of like he's talking about the impact of Blacks in society and how his episodes are because of slavery and because of this and that. And his children are reaping the benefits on that show of his success. And throughout the whole show, you are seeing that he is attempting and trying to help his family understand how important and valuable it is to be Black in America, that because of your father's influence, none of this will be possible, but you guys don't get it. You guys don't understand what is going on here. And they're all just kind of like in their own different space. And I think even to a certain extent, you can say that most Black people in this country, not most, I want to rephrase that there are certain pockets in America where Black people try to escape from their Blackness. And they try to, a whitewashing takes place where their Blackness is diminished, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's on television, and it has a mental impact on you. You are afraid in spaces to speak on things that are currently going on in America that still affect Black people. You know, being that I went to higher education, there was a conversation that we had, and I had a separate conversation with that colleague, and they were like, they found it very interesting, and it was an issue for her that they were using someone who was non-Black to speak on the systematic racism that's going on in this country. How can you do that? And we were like, I was shocked. I was like, I didn't even know they had selected that person. I'm like, of all people, why would you choose that person to tell what's going on in a setting like that? So I think it's important that we also focus on the mental aspect of what colorism has on Black Americans, and also not just Americans, but also other Africans in other countries, because they have it worse to where they are still to this day prohibited to navigate in certain spaces because of their situation. So it does. That's another thing that we need to focus on, is the mental issue, that it starts at an early age. And I think we have to be very mindful, and Shar, you can touch on this more, is young Black men and young Black women, and primarily boys and girls. It's important that we lift their head up and tell them how beautiful they are, no matter what. To be, I remember growing up, people would, I remember I had family members and also certain other, non-Black people would poke fun of the fact that my lips were larger, or my nose was big, or this and that. And then now you see in society how they embrace that and they want to have those things, and they put these lip fillers and they look all silly and this and that. Like Black culture, Black appropriation is so real, y'all, that
it is too real.
I embrace the fact that my lips are full. I embrace the fact that I would never, ever, ever be, I would have certain self-hatred of what I have, these attributes of being an African man in this country. I love the fact that I look like this, because people pay big money to look the way we look.
You sure do.
Right, and they be looking silly too. You know what I'm saying? And it always cracks me up when they always, she's trying to, I'm like, no, like Black, I don't go outside and I see Black women that look like an Iggy Azalea or one of them stupid Kardashian women, or them Jenner women. And sorry if I feel that way, that I call them stupid, but I think it's so, and nothing against them, but it's just stupid that they showcase them on the Shade Room and Baller and all these other sites. It's like, we don't want to see that right now. One, because we're going through something. And no, they don't look like us. They are appropriating. It's almost like a caricature of what we look like. But it's a mental thing that it does to the psyche of Black Americans that we need to focus on, because little Black women, little Black girls who are growing see that and they think that they have to look like them. That's the issue that
Little Kim. Look at all the damage Little Kim has done to her face and her body.
That is self-hatred.
You know what I mean? And that's the issue. And so going back to how Blacks are portrayed in the media, growing up dark skinned, representation matters. It mattered greatly for me growing up. My mom was fair skinned. Her side of the family was fair skinned. My dad's side of the family was darker skinned, but I didn't spend a lot of time with them. Like, I spent time with my dad, but I didn't spend a lot of time with his family. So I didn't see that representation. And I was recently looking through one of my old photo albums, and in high school, how girls would plaster all these pictures on their walls. All the women on my wall were white.
That's deep.
Representation matters.
Wow.
Now, if I had a daughter today, or my niece, for example, she could flip through hella magazines and find girls, women, whomever who look like her.
Right.
But I had to go through, well, I didn't have to, but I went through a period of self-hate, low self-esteem, not wanting my daughter to have to experience the things that I experienced, and felt like, well, in order for her to bypass that, maybe I'll procreate with a white man so she could be mixed and she doesn't have to be made fun of because of the color of her skin or the texture of her hair. All of these different things. So I get self-hate. I get it. I get low self-esteem, but like, it took a lot for me to learn to love myself and truly value the skin that I'm in. And unfortunately, like my mom, she esteemed me, but I didn't feel like she could relate to me because she wasn't my same complexion.
Right.
And I felt like, because you're my mom, of course you're going to say I'm pretty and I'm beautiful. But I had to find all that within myself, really.
Knowledge itself is important.
So just a question. You said the women on your wall were white. What type of art or what type of posters did you have on your wall?
Oh, so back in the day, I wanted to be a model. So they were all models. It was like my vision board. Yeah, so they were models. We didn't have Black models. All we had was Tyra Banks and Naomi.
Right.
And Grace Jones.
And Grace. And she was before my generation.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just think, for the sake of representation mattering, like, y'all, we gotta get our Black faces and our Black voices out there. If not for us, for the generation that comes behind us. Like, I'll be damned. My kids, like, my Black pride is about to be implanted in them from the time they come in my embryo. I'm about to be affirming them little Black kids. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's important.
No, it is
I'm
important.
sorry, it's a passion point for me, y'all.
No. I think it is, because I think you and I can both identify how the impact of it, whether it's posters that you put on the wall or, you know, people poking fun at your attributes because you have this or that. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? I love and enjoy, you know, being a Black man and be able to embrace the things that I embrace. I think that it is important to uplift our Black women. And when I do have children one day, I want to do the same thing, whether it's a daughter or a son. It's important that we teach knowledge of self at an early age so that they can identify some of the issues that are on their phones or on social media or on television. I think we need to see more young Black women and young Black men who are speaking and are showing eloquence, no matter what skin tone they are, and showing off that Black pride that they have. And I think that is important once again for all ethnicities of color to embrace the skin that you're in and embrace what it is that you have been blessed with, and not allow a white European, what they have brought to this country, allow you to hate what God has created. And you have a gift to share that. And I think it's important, because when I see things in my timeline that are considered hip or culture, and it does not look like me, or if you see Black women who embrace certain looks, you know, and they're not embracing more of the look that they've been blessed with, I also have an issue with that. I'm not a big fan of when I see Black women. You know, I don't mind if they put it like a little, one of my friends does not like seeing certain skin tones of Black women with blonde hair. And when it's like super long and this and that, like he has an issue with that. And sometimes I'm like, well, there are certain skin tones of Black women that can kind of get away with that. I think for me, it's more of when it is an overdone and they just be having all, and I don't want to touch into Black women's hair because that's a whole nother subject, but you know.
No, go for it.
I think that.
I'll say for our non-Black listener and viewers, anybody who's my complexion, you just shouldn't have blonde hair on your head.
Don't do it. And I think it's amazing when I see these Black women on J Room or this in my timeline, they be having like these extra hairs and it's this, like take that off and just rock the natural. Or this something that is not over the top. And I think that is self-hatred also. When you try to cover up your Blackness, it's like you're embracing something that's not even part of another culture. You're embracing something that is self-hatred, and you're taking on certain things, whether it's enhancements on your body or enhancements on your hair. I think we need to see more of that, because Black men, we don't have to, you're not going to catch no brother walking around with no. I think of Dave Chappelle when he used to do those skits, or Jamie Foxx when he used to do those skits, and he used to be like a ghetto Ted Koppel, and he would put the wig on. Like, you won't catch no brother not embracing like a dope or his
right.
Like, I don't know what it is about our sisters, like why they need to embrace things that are not, I don't know. Maybe we need to get someone on our show to explain why.
Can I push it?
Yeah.
Can I push it? Well, part of the reason why our sisters embrace it is because that's what our brothers like. Our brothers like white women. Some of our brothers like white women. They like Hispanic women. So they're probably trying to assimilate with what they think y'all like.
And it's the Barbie doll syndrome. People have complexes of their weight. People have complexes of their length of hair. And it's very unfortunate. But at the same time, because of the enhancements, people can do a change instantly. And like you were speaking to the Kardashians, they are the models of enhancements, right? And they're basically mirroring fuller lips, like you were speaking to. They're mirroring a bigger behind, like men like. And I mean, it's not wholesome, but it's the cosmetic aspect of life that so many people buy into in all races. It's unfortunate, but
it is. And I think it's sad when you see young Black women, you know, like I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other night. We were talking about Summer Walker and the R&B singer, and she's like going through this whole switch, like of just her face is not the same, and she's had enhancements done to her body. And I'm like, I don't know how old she is, but I highly doubt that she's close to 25. And it's just sad when you start to see, and just like with Little Kim, she started
Oh wow.
just like,
I didn't know that.
yeah, you may have to look at how she's before and after, but Little Kim is another one who's like gone through this switch of just changing herself. And to your point, you know, of what, you know, you were talking about, Shar, about black men and what they like. I think as someone, you know, I can speak on behalf of black men, you know, and my preference being black women, I would never, with a black woman I'm dating, tell them to not to embrace another type of style that's against. I love seeing my sisters embrace the certain hair that is more in tune with our community, rather than putting on, you know, some silly wig, unless it's Halloween time or something, that's okay. But if you, I would never ever put a black woman in a position that I'm dating to embrace something that is against her blackness. I would feel uncomfortable as a black man because I don't do that as a black man. You will never catch me doing something like that. So why would I be anti-black to someone who I am dating? I think that that's important. So those brothers out there that do that, shame on them, because if you're doing that, and it's something that you brought up in our Black Lives Matter episode, is when black men do that, what are you saying to your black mother or your black auntie or your black sister? Like, I can only imagine what my mom or sister would do if I walked into the house and I walked in with something that looked like a Kardashian. They would probably be like, what's going on? My dad probably won't trip, but my mom will probably be like, what? And I know my sister, she'll be outspoken to say something quick. But like I said, if, you know, I've dated outside my race, I would never, if I was dating someone, you know, out my race, and which I have before, I would want them to embrace their culture too, because I want to know more about their culture. So why would I force a black woman to embrace something that is non-black? And why would I do the same to a woman who comes from the Latino community or the Asian community? Why would I do the same thing? I think we should embrace what it is that's been done. And I've seen a really dynamic photo of colorism, the impact that it's had in society, to where this shirt was like saying like 1800s, 1900s, and like the 2000s, how we were defined as black people, how we were Negro, and then, or we were colored, and then we became African American or just black. Same thing with the Asian community. You know, they wouldn't identify them based on what their ethnicity was. You know, if they were Filipino or if they were Chinese or if they were Japanese, they used derogatory terms that we would not use today to define who they were in America. And I think that that's important when we talk about colorism. It is another way for white America to define who we are. And there are other cultures in America who try to not identify with that or don't have that pride. And I think it's important to be prideful of what you are and who you are, and not allow someone to tell you what you are. I think knowledge itself is important for our listeners.
All right. I got a point and a question. So the point, basically it applauds India Irie for her song, I Am Not My Hair. That song really resonated with me. And it just is an empowering song because she had to go through a transition of her hair to realize that she just needed to be who she was, and it's not her hair. Yeah. But my question to the Convo Lounge is, what if a black woman has cancer, has to cut her hair off, and feels that she'd look more prettier with a wig? How do we react to that?
I think I can answer that one because I personally don't have anyone in my family that is going through any of those battles, but those that are, you know, my prayers are with you. But I think that is two different ends of the spectrum when you're talking about that, because now that person who is battling that has no choice. But we're talking about embracing something that unfortunately you cannot control, and you are praying to get through. Whereas women who are not going through those things adopt it because society has forced them to. And afraid to embrace it, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's just being out and about. And I think that it is important to showcase more of black women, no matter what their skin tone, if it's fair or more of a darker complexion. to embrace the African side of you, to embrace what it is that you have that is black and not allowed to be defined by European things. And I think it also has a thing to do with black businesses, you know, taking advantage of black businesses. I remember growing up when, you know, before I went to the ball, you know, joint, you know, when I would have a fade and have waves in my hair, you know, I would go to the shop and I had to buy a do-rag from a lady who wasn't black. I had to buy it from, you know, a Korean brother or sister. So I think, you know, that's important as well, to have black businesses embrace the black culture. When you go into a barbershop and you see a bunch of brothers of different skin tones from number 1 to number 25 rocking dope cuts, you're not going to have, you know, a different ethnicity representing that. Maybe nowadays you do. I don't go to the barbershop anymore like that. But, you know, maybe that's a question I can ask one of my boys. But I think that it's important that we look at the two different things, where more of it is more related to health and what you're currently going through in that stage, whereas the other is, I am a black woman, but I am afraid to showcase my blackness because ... And I want to put on make up for something that I do not like.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak from my personal experience as a black woman. Amir knows when we met, I had long permed hair in college.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then I rocked the short cut.
I was shocked.
And I went natural.
I was like, what are you doing?
I know. I am not my hair. The gospel according to India Ari. I'm not my hair. And here's the thing with hair, it grows back. I don't know why people get so attached to length. Like, length also signifies beauty, but that's a whole nother story. But my natural hair journey began maybe 7 years ago. I went natural and I did like I can't think today. The big chop. So I had no hair. Like, I probably had a half an inch of hair. And that embracing and loving of yourself was huge, because I was a girl who was a slave to the salon and the creamy crack. I was at the salon every week without fail. So to go from a fly ass haircut to no hair at all, that was a different sort of embracing a natural journey. And I don't regret it at all. Like, that was probably the beginning of my self-love and self-acceptance as loving who I am naturally. And it was hella liberating. Like, I could swim, I can get my hair wet, I can get caught in the rain. Sex didn't matter anymore because your hair is short and it's natural. Like, it was just hella liberating having natural hair.
No doubt. And, you know, I've, outside of, you know, knowing you for many years, Shar, I've also had the chance to meet a lot of black women who have gone in that journey to embrace that look. And, you know, you can go back to the 60s, the 50s, into the 70s. You know, I have seen photos of my mom embracing her Afrocentric, and my mom is a fair skin, more of a lighter skin complexion black woman, but she embraced the Afro and she had that going on raw natural. My dad loves when he sees black women rocking the natural haircut. I remember my sister's done it. And I think, you know, when black women can embrace that and take out the things that were never meant for us to have in our hair in the first place, to
exactly.
I mean, you think of Malcolm X, right, is a perfect example as a black man. We can identify with how Malcolm, you know, before he converted to the Nation of Islam, you know, there was a scene where he was putting that stuff in his hair. And when he went to the conch, right, and he went into prison, and the brother told him to take that stuff out because that is European ways that have influenced you to look a certain way, and it looks buffoonery when you see it on a black man. Yep. Right? And, you know, I don't know. The only brother I can think of that's still rocking that perm is probably Al Sharpton. Shout out to Al Sharpton, but you know what I'm saying? But I think if I saw a brother right now and I went to the golf course and he took off his hat and he just got like this, I would low-key lose it, and I would probably want to take a photo with him and put it on social media. Just like, yeah, like, look, I found one. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I think that it's important that we as black people embrace the attributes that God has given us, whether it's as a black woman, your hair. And once again, I don't want to make it very clear that I'm not telling a black woman what to do with her hair. I'm just saying embrace.
Yeah.
Negative word, embrace what is black about you. And I have plenty, like I said, I got a lot of black women in my family. I want to give a shout out to all the black women in my family, from aunts to my sister, to my cousins, You know, they all have different skin tones, and they are just extremely beautiful. I have a very beautiful. There's a lot of women on my mom's side of the family, and when I see them on social media, I'm like, you know, I have a few younger cousins that haven't embraced their natural hairstyle, and they embrace it. And I think it's important to embrace your Afrocentric ways, because if not, another race will. That's a topic for another day, probably. That, you know, other nationalities are embracing Afrocentric looks, whereas we decide that we don't want to. And it's like, that's kind of ass backwards a little bit to me.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. And here's the thing, like, I'm not saying by any means that in order to be a real authentic Black woman, you have to be natural.
Yeah.
Your hair is your hair. That's your crown. You wear it the way you see fit. Like, if you love lace fronts, lace front it out, sis. If you wear weaves, weave it out, sis. It's just not for me, right? Like,
I could not date a
I'm okay with my natural crown.
Hair is big.
However, we don't need the Kardashians wearing cornrows to make it cool.
No, I agree. And then rename the style to something else. It's like, wait a minute, when did that become box braids? Same thing with Bo Derek in the 70s.
Thank you.
I remember my dad.
They were individuals growing up. We called them individuals. How are they now box braids?
Right.
I'm confused. What I want to, I wish I was famous enough to talk to the men, the Black men who date the Kardashians. What kind of conversations do y'all have about Blackness and Black appropriation? Like, I would really love to know if Kim and Kanye have conversations about appropriations and her injections and her implants and her hairstyles. Like,
well, I think
is that okay with them? Do they just turn a blind eye to it? The Travis Scotts and the Lamar Odoms.
You know what I think? You know what I think about them when you mention them? I think with Kanye is a very narcissistic brother. And I remember when he would, someone I was dating at the time, they were watching an episode of the show. And I think this is prior to him dating her, but he was just all into what she brought to the table. And I think that is a heavy influence of him on her, because I don't really recall her being that person before they met, and it became more and more popular and more seen as they started to date more. You started to see that, and then you see it not just with her, but with her sister, who is not even the same ethnicity as the rest of the sisters, the Jenner girls. Only one of them, not both of them. I want to make that very clear. But I don't know which one is which, but I know
Kylie has all the injections. Kylie did a whole transformation. That is a caterpillar going into a different cocoon and coming out a different butterfly on a whole nother level.
I'm gonna call the Kardashians allies to Black culture, because all of the men that they've dated,
Wait a minute.
Nah, bro.
Allies or appropriators? We're using two different A's.
Okay, well, I call it an ally because from their core, Mr. Kardashian was an attorney, represented
OJ
Simpson.
They were friends in USC.
Right. I feel like they are aware of, and they adorn the Blackness. In a sense, she likes Black men. They all like Black men now. We see that, right? So
Antonio.
Hold on. Corey. Yeah, Antonio, hold on, Antonio. I got something I want to say to that. Okay. If you want to tap into, Robert Kardashian, rest his soul, him and OJ were friends, right? But if you want to mention OJ, that is the wrong brother to even mention right now, because we already know what.
Thank you.
Right? OJ.
He's still Black.
He's not. He's not Black. He's OJ. Out of his mouth. He said it
very clear back in the day that he wanted nothing to do with the Black community. And that's why he was able to be a spokesperson for Hertz and spokespersons for other areas that Black people. He was not in the same conversation as Muhammad Ali. And my dad, I can reach out to him right now, and he would say straight up that back in that time, he called him Tom Juice. That's what his name was for OJ, right? Because we already
the Uncle Tom. So going back to the original point, the Kardashians are not allies. They are appropriators. They are the poster children of Black appropriation.
No doubt about it.
And the men who date them, have a level of self-hate that we are not educated enough to discuss right now.
You know what I think?
That's just my personal opinion.
Here's my thing about them. You know, if you mention the Travis Scotts, you mention Tristan Thompson, you mention Kanye, I think what it comes down to as well is the fact that they are men who are Black and navigating in the space of entertainment. They're navigating in a space where they want to be in a spotlight, and their spotlight is dependent upon of having that type of woman around them. And it is self-hatred for the Black women that they probably have dated, and they probably had experiences where they felt the need to not date Black women anymore, and they feel like they need to go with something like that. And then what you do in the midst of that is you try to have them embrace things that a Black woman would most likely embrace, whether it's hairstyles, whether it's a certain type of shape. But the issue that I have mostly with that family is the fact that they have never really been outspoken about what they have done. And they think it's okay. And then what happens is that they have publicists who I'm definitely for sure are not Black, do the things that they do to navigate and help them. And then they have those two sisters that they kick it with, who I think are just out there, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just being surrogate Black friends for them, to where they
right.
don't, and I'm pretty sure they probably didn't have a conversation of, you know, hey, maybe like, Shar, I know you would never hang around them, but if you were to hang around them, you would call it out as it is. Like, no, you're not going to wear that hairstyle, or no, you're not going to appropriate my culture like that in that manner. And I think those men in particular have a self-hatred not only for themselves, but also for their Black women. And Kanye's been canceled in the Black community, not just because he's been dating her, but because of the outrageous things that he has said. And that would make sense because of
well, here's the other thing. My issue with the Kardashians is that they have yet to admit all of the body work that they've had done.
That's what I'm saying.
And then Kim Kardashian recently got on a podcast and had the audacity to talk about it's difficult for her to find clothes to fit her natural curves. If you don't get the bleep out of here, your natural curves, it's hard for you to find clothes. Sister, do you know how many Black women who have real curves and real asses have struggled to find jeans?
Wait, which
you want to get on here and make it seem like you are the beginning, the alpha of curviness?
Wait, hey, Shar, real quick, which one said that?
Kim.
Oh, well.
They've yet to admit they're lying about their injections, their butt injections, butt implants, breast implants. Like, every single month, they look different. They've had some different enhancement done. And they won't cop up to it.
You know what's funny about them? You know what's funny about them and that family? It's like when you get a new phone or you have a current phone and there's always like a software upgrade. That's what that family
does.
They have like software updates on their bodies and their faces.
That's a business. I mean, I look at them as business persons. They've been able to matriculate in society off culture vulturing, as you guys call it, cultural appropriation. And I'm okay with what you guys are saying, because I don't think one way or the other. It was just for conversation. But if you look at the brothers that, in my opinion, you look at the brothers that dated them, I think they were real dudes out the hood, and they were probably just looking to be pleased, have a jump off or whatever. And because people are so quick to, when you see a picture of two people together, you automatically assume. So all the world just adds their own assumptions to what's really going on to everybody's life. And so you're forever on a chopping block for being judged.
Well,
I think it's insecurity. I think these are men who were from the hood, who could never pull a Kardashian when they were in high school. So now that they have riches and fame and money, they're going for what they couldn't have. But my issue with that is, I get that it's a business, but you're willing to sell your true authentic self for $1, for a coin?
You know what's...
Is that serious? Fame is that much of a drug to you that you are going to sell out for it?
What's funny is that it's a two-way street, though, right? Because they're in the entertainment industry. They don't have any talent. Let's make that very clear. But the men that they're marrying do have talent.
Kendall does. Kendall's a great model.
It's influencers. It's influencer more than talent.
But my point is that they don't have. I mean, it doesn't take a talent to walk down the runway, right?
Yes, it does.
I'm just saying.
Yes, it
I can get a dog to do that. You know what I'm saying?
No, you cannot.
A dog does that in the Westchester Dog Animal Show. You can get a dog that can spin around and
angles and modeling is a craft.
I know, but when okay, whatever. But I'm just saying, talent, in my opinion, is can you sing? Can you rap? Can you write? Can you are you a great orator? Can you create things from nothing? And I remember
they have created a lot from nothing.
Allow me to finish. I remember when Barbara Walters, one time when she was hosting 2020, straight out asked him, and you can Google this, what is it that you do? And Barbara Walters is always going to be down. And by the way, she dated brothers too, by the way. But I think what is important is that is a conversation that is still relevant. It's like, what did they do? Okay, they influence what? They influence Black culture. They influence things, and they are taking advantage of the Black culture, and they marry men who also want to be down and also share that spotlight. Let's be honest, Tristan Thompson is not a great basketball player, y'all. If the brother was walking down the street, the average basketball fan will know who he is, but someone who likes basketball may just be like, oh, that's a tall Black man, you know? But if you see Kanye West, it's like, oh, I know who that is. Travis Scott, well-known rapper, very talented. But I think what it is that they take advantage of the opportunity, and the brothers that they date or have dated or have been married to, it's an opportunity for them to continue in the spotlight. I mean, think of how many Black men Kim Kardashian has been with. She's been with a multitude of basketball players, football players, other entertainers. But think about the type that she is dating and is attracted to. Most of them, other than Ray J, all the others are probably not really in tune with the Black community. And Kanye was, and now he's just out of touch, you know?
Well, so Kanye's coming back. Kanye is coming back. I think that, you know, he has a gospel album now. So he's coming back. I think what happened with Kanye is that he lost his mom.
Yeah,
and it shook his world up. And he does have mental health issues. So I don't want to go too hard on Kanye because I do have compassion for him. But the rest of them, trash.
Straight up. And I think it's not, and you know, and unfortunately, you know, do they take all the blame? You know, I think it's a mixture of everything. I think it's a mixture of individuals around them. It's their publicists that it's okay for that to be seen out there. And like I said, I went back to Bo Derek because my dad talked about that. That's all it is. It's white society recreating things that they have done for many years, trying to showcase what Black is in their eyes and then disregard our contributions to that. So I think we have to be mindful of our Blackness and to show it off by any means necessary. And although we are currently in a season of healing and a season of solidarity, I think that opportunity also comes into the mix where we don't have to no longer educate them, our white counterparts. That is something that needs to be a topic of discussion. But as we continue to navigate with this, talking about everything, you know, in the workplace, how colorism has an impact. And I remember I working at another institution I was working at, I remember one of my brothers that was working there who was more of a fairer skin, he kind of tapped into how opportunities for him will probably come more in the abundance versus me. And I kind of looked at him, the thing was that he was a little younger, and I kind of had to educate him. I said, well, at the end of the day, brother, as you continue to climb up where you need to go, I think that you have to be mindful that as you continue to navigate, you're still going to be in their eyes a nigga. So let's think more clear in your statement of your advancement as being a fair-skinned Black person versus my skin complexion. I think it was a little out of touch for a Black man to say that anyway. But I think that we have to be mindful in certain spaces in our community that colorism is an issue, but it also in the workplace, it's important to to also understand the impact of solidarity. If you have Black people that work in your workplace, come together and work together and show off that camaraderie in that environment that we need to be in that space and be positive to one another, build each other up. To my point from the last episode, you know, the young brother who was on the basketball team, Jalen Hands, you know, lift that head up. If they're going through something, lift that head up. If they're going through something in the workplace, brush that off, lift it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to either be well, I don't want to, let me rephrase that. I'm fortunate enough now in my current role, working for local government, and working for a black mayor, a black political official whose administration is predominantly African American. I've been very fortunate to have peers and mentors and colleagues who look like me. However, there was a time where I was hired just as a diversity token, and I was the token Black girl in management in a lot of my roles in banking. So I see both sides, where I was a token Black girl and where I was hired just because I was qualified for the job. And not to say I was hired based on just being Black and I wasn't qualified, but I can definitely see the difference in how I'm treated in both roles.
No doubt. I mean, the topic of colorism, the topic of Afrocentric identity or Afrocentric, I think we have to embrace all that is necessary, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in society, whether it's in television or media. We have to definitely embrace our culture, and those that embrace our culture, they have to be mindful of what they're doing when they go over the top. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that it is appropriation. But this is definitely it's been a great topic. It's been something that has had a major influence in our stage of life and Black people and personally. But Antonio, what you wanted to talk about? You got anything, any last minute things or anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, I want to shout out Nick Cannon for his contributions to art, and him as a professional excelling through television in today's climate, right? He has the show Wild 'N Out. It may not be a great representation of people of color, but yet it's entertainment, it's comedic. And also, you know, Nick Cannon takes on the responsibility of him being a Black man, and he speaks to the challenges that we have as Black people. So I just wanted to shout him out.
Yeah, Nick Cannon is an underrated beast. He is high key killing it.
He's much needed in the Black community right now, and I'm glad that he has taken stance on things that are still incorrect in this country. No doubt, using your platform, and that's another thing too for another topic. Being Black in this world, we have to use our platform for the greater good to uplift our own, because other communities do it. So why is it still an issue when we do it ourselves? So I think it's important that we use our platform as Black people in this country to elevate one another before we elevate others.
That's very true.
Any last minute things, y'all, that you want to, Shar? I know, Antonio, you have one thing. What about for you, Shar?
I don't really have anything. I don't have anything. Thank y'all for listening. So don't only follow us on YouTube, Instagram. Don't only listen to us, but also subscribe to our shows on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And then share it with a friend. Share it with your parents.
Yeah.
Share it with your village.
Share it with your congregation.
Sharing is caring. Yes.
You know, share it everywhere. And once again, we thank you all for tuning in on this episode of the Convo Lounge, chopping it up about colorism. We love y'all. Continue to stay focused and be blessed. Peace.